Here we go. So I hope that the internet doesn't go out so you can see what it is that I'm trying to show you right here. So my name is Anie Akpe. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So my name is Anie Akpe, and I am currently a vice president of mortgages at a credit union. With that being said, I manage any system that we bring into the mortgage department. We're a company that allows you the ability to actually pick out the system that works best for your department. So for us, it's more from a project management side, and then you have developers to develop whatever else you may need, that makes you run efficiently. Our company doesn't believe in hiring tons of people. So for us, it's use computers to create whatever efficiency you may need. So for me, technology came into a facet in being able to identify systems that work best with business solutions. So in any case, with that being said, after you do corporate America for a little while, and you get to a part in corporate America where you're like, okay, you get to a point in corporate America where you're like, all right, this is great, this is cool, everybody else is not retiring, they're not dying, that's not what you wish on anybody, but you get my drift. They're not moving. So therefore you have to figure out, are you gonna move or are you gonna do something else? So for me, I was born in Nigeria. I visit Nigeria every year, except the last 2 years. So I said, okay, I've done all this work. I'm getting questions on technology. Let me start thinking about how I can give back to the community. So for me, giving back to the community meant answering questions such as technology for business questions that people came to ask me, even though I dealt with only residential side of the business, but people wanted business information. So I started doing community events that focus in on the diaspora, that wanted to know these things, but just didn't know how to get it. This was over 5-7 years ago. So when I launched that, I started doing events in New York City that attracted that group and that segment. After a while, you say, okay, I've done this. This is great. Nobody's still dying at my job. I'm not gonna move, because it's very comfortable. I get to be creative. I get to do so many different facets. And that overshadowed me trying to leave to go to a company that's more specialized. So why not keep building out, the social things that I'm doing? So then I said, okay, that's great. Now let me focus in on Africa. So me being me, thinking I'm Nigerian, this should be easy, let me contact my peoples and make things happen. And I contacted Nigeria and they were like, nope, we want to charge you $100,000 for this spot because they heard my American accent, even though I could switch. We can switch at any point, but that didn't matter. They still know that you're not, from there, so they start to look to charge you. And the initiative that I started was not based on me trying to charge people. I wanted to keep it for free. You see, with social innovation, you want to reach to the community that you want to impact. I could get big names people to come and speak, but the girls and boys that are there, whoever we were trying to reach out to, they wouldn't have access to those people because it's more very class-based society. So with that class base, then you need to try to go to the students directly, or you need to try to reach out to the small entrepreneurs who can't really afford to pay $500 for an event such as this. So for me to think about paying someone $100,000 was just not feasible for a small little space. So I said, okay, Nigeria, y'all want to be difficult? No problem. So Kenya reached out to me. Kenya said, hey, we got a space. What's wrong with us? We're not good enough? And I said, no, y'all are perfect. You guys are the right relationship. So I know, right? Forget Nigeria. Let me switch out tribes and get, So in any case, I decided to go to Kenya. And when I went to Kenya, it was amazing because Kenya, let me give you a little information about the tech ecosystem. In Africa, there are 3 that are very rapidly developing: Kenya, Nigeria, and South Africa. So the others are advancing, but not as quickly and as fast as those 3. So keep in mind, when I say Kenya, they've been doing mobile technology way faster than the US. They've been doing mobile payments for over 10 years now. They haven't had a credit card. They don't even know what that is. So, because they do everything through M-Pesa. Have you heard of that? So where all you have to do is just pay everything through your mobile phone. So See what I mean? So anyway, everything you're doing is through your mobile phone. You do not have to do anything. You could be out in the farms in the sticks. You could pay for everything. You could exchange money with everyone. So their mobile advancement is almost 15 years ahead of the United States. So Kenya. So their currency being able to be generated through the phone is super advanced. There's nothing you need to do. But in any case, going into Kenya was fairly simple because what I learned in Kenya is that 6 out of the 10 girls that were at our event were already developers. So if you already have developers and then you only have the 4 that have non-technical skills, you're actually playing with a different field altogether. But in any case, when I finally did make it there, we had women organizations that reached out to us and said, hey, we want to work with you. We see what you're doing. So it wasn't like a competition type. It was, you guys are new, teach us what you're doing, show us how to do what you're doing, and then this way we can work within the community. The important part about working within any community, if you're thinking about reaching out to any emerging market, because that's still what it would be called, even though they are light years ahead of us, is being able to tap into that community resources. So what we did was we actually had community leaders that were already women in technology that had positions in what we call Safaricom, which would be our Verizon here. They already had these positions, so it made it easier for them to come talk to the women and girls. So remember, I mentioned class issue. Class issue is not just in Nigeria, it's also in Kenya. So there's this class issue where you come in and women are being told, well, you don't want to do that. You'll never get married. You will not have kids. You won't have this. You won't have that. So we now have, yes, we now have women that understand that they could actually be in technology, but convincing them that, hey, it's okay for you to continue even after you get pregnant, you know, that you just have to find someone that will work around, you and make it work for you. Because you can't go in there screaming women power and do this, do that. No, that's not going to work. What actually works is that you're actually communicating. Thank you. You're actually communicating to them within what matters and having them understand that it's possible. All of these things are possible. Men dominate totally in most African countries. I'm sure by now you know this. But in Kenya, there are more women that are in technology than I found in other parts of Africa. So we went to Ghana and we went to Kenya. Ghana was a little bit harder for us in a sense that it didn't have as much advancement as Kenya did. Ghana does have electricity more than, say, Nigeria, which their electricity is more functioning at least 80-90% of the time. Whereas Nigeria, you have one day of light, you better celebrate and plug and charge and do everything else. And then, turn off the generator, refill it, get this, get that. It's my country, I can talk about it. You can't talk about it, but I can talk about it. But in any case, when the light does come on, you're able to charge up and get everything else ready. So it's a fact, it is what it is, but it has not stopped innovation. So it's just a different type of innovation based on the society. So when you're doing social innovation, you have to make sure that you're not trying to go in there to disrupt anything there, because you should be assisting them to actually make solutions that is fitting. So one of the things that we tried to do was actually talk to women and tell them, focus in on what they're doing, say, hey, we want to know what you're working on and how we can be a resource. Because as I mentioned earlier, most of our speakers were like 10 to 15% well-known people in the Kenyan space or even within Africa, but the rest was from the community. So this way they would have mentors after we left, because there was no point in us building these communities. And they can email us. There's Google Hangout, there's, Skype, there's all of these technologies, but you're still not there. So you really are only making impact in terms of resources, funds, that's great. But they still need the people that understand the everyday functioning that's happening within their community, and we're not that. But we are that resource that could actually say, hey, let me connect you with this person. They'd be a great mentor for you. But one of the impacts I wanted to share with you is Edna. So she is actually an entrepreneur in the field of energy and a CEO of Biopane Energy Company. So this is what I mean by how advanced they were They are already. Some just need that connection or that resource or that information. Sharing of wealth that we do get here so easily. I think the US, just my opinion, the US has access to a lot of information. Whether you choose to use it or not, we have the option to go get that information fairly easily. And 9 times out of 10, it's a lot less expensive for us than it is for them to get that information. So when we do these events, they're free. The space we get is free. Google sponsors it and pays for the lunch. We don't go trying to make $30,000 off a sponsorship because that's not the goal. The goal is actually to be a community resource. If it's for further use as an entrepreneur, it would be, yes, I collect all that data, all of that information, all of those, be a resource, let the corporations pay me to access those people, not to take advantage of the people that are there. So I would want my impact to be that, hey, I helped you launch this, because I talked to you, or I helped you get the assistance that you needed. But in any way, can't quite, okay, good. So to continue, so I'm just gonna focus on what she was inspired to create. She was able to start 2 businesses. One was targeted helping SMEs in Africa understand their customers by studying their psychographic data using technology software. And then the second one was targeted towards moving transportation systems of producers from the farm to the marketplace and tracking their products. What we talked about, one of the first sessions was actually using drones, sensors, apps to actually track within the farming industry. So what we did was we brought in subject matter experts as well as some of the farmers that use it. It was very hard for the farmers to actually trust technology because they're not going to. And then secondly, you had to convince one in order to convince 50. If you could at least get one in there, you were fine. So bringing in the one to say, this is the reason why I paid attention to it, because I'm way out here, I'm producing these things. I don't know how much I'm gonna make. I don't know how much I'm gonna lose. I don't even know if this is viable right now. So by being able to actually put into the app what they're creating, what their product is, how much of their product, how much of the resources of the products that they have, and when it would be ready, they were able to better market it. So what she's doing is working with farmers in terms of being able to get their product marketed to the general market without actually having to be way out in the boondocks somewhere. They're sharing information through the apps. So the hardest part for her would be going back to the farmers to try to convince them that you want to continue to use this app, or we've updated this model, or we've added this, or whatever the case may be. Because once they get comfortable, it's hard to make them shift, So, but once they understand the importance of it, because their end result is that they're able to actually get more income, and because they're able to track and project out better, then it was better for the community in a whole. So our goal is always to work with people like Edna to make sure that their impact is directly impacting the community in which they live in. I don't live in that farm. You see where I'm at today. So I'm in New York City, in Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy, in my brownstone, chilling. However, the passion, just like you mentioned, is what I look towards. See, I'm older than you. So this for me is truly a passion, and it took me a long time to find it, because my initial passion was just moving up in the ranks. So once you move up in the ranks and you move out of the ranks, then you start to look at, okay, I'm here, where do we go from here? So, and it's a constant thing anyway. But right now, the passion is to helping the young girls and women that don't have access to information that I have access to. But in any case, I mentioned that we did Kenya and Ghana. So this year, we're going back to Kenya in June. And of course, our focus is AI, data science. One of the hackathons that we're putting on, Design Mini anyway, is actually data science and journalism. So there's a company there that got millions in grants that's actually going to do a workshop and do small hackathon. And the next day, the girls are going to pitch, and they'll be able to win, sponsorship and scholarships in order for them to do more research on whatever they develop. So that's one of the partners that we try to do. We try to make people that work within the community already work with the girls that wouldn't have access to that information. So also we're going to Mozambique and we'll be going to Morocco as well. The whole point of all of this is focusing in on my passion, knowing what works for me, what I was creative in. It allowed me to be creative. I actually stayed within my budget, which is not, it's not that bad. But as I moved on, I was able to partner with Google. We partnered with Uber. Uber is like, hey, we can bring you speakers, we could bring you this, It's not large amounts of money that they gave us, but they gave us resources and access, and that's what made it work. And anything that you do with passion, you'll figure out a way to make it work eventually. So it may not be initially, but as you move on, you're able to really show the results of that. The results of what we did overall, because the girls were some of the pictures. So this is our attendance and track record for the events. On average, each day we had like 120 girls. The networking was like 80. That's how we knew that a lot of these girls were not going in there to teach them how to code because they already knew how to code. They're like, don't waste our time. We don't need that. We need mentors. We need you to introduce us to people. That's what we need, so that's what we focus in on. So we had to use Twitter as our measuring tool because there are no tools to measure outside of that and where we were in. So what we did was we told the girls, hey, if you want this direct, correlation to get the access to the things you need, make some noise. And they did. We had 2 million impressions. We were trending in the top 5 in Kenya the whole time we were there for all 3 days. So it really made an impact and allowed everyone to see what they were doing. And because of that, this year as we go back, we had people approach us, hey, can you come do this interview? Can you come do this? Can you come do that? Which creates more solutions for them. So which is the end result? You want to create opportunity. As you focus in on any social innovation that you're doing where it's community-based, make as much noise as you can. The whole point is that you make noise. This is not a quiet moment. If you're having a quiet moment, there's a corner library somewhere where you can sit. This ain't that. Social innovation requires that you make a lot of noise. It requires you to be loud. It requires you to tell your audience, you need to be loud with me. I can't be the only one loud here. It doesn't look good. At the end of the day, I want to be able to create opportunities for you. So I need you to help me make that noise. And they did. So that was Kenya. And then Ghana did the exact same thing with less of an attendance, but the impressions were pretty much the same in terms of our reach and being able to communicate to people that were not there. What we found is that a lot of the people that couldn't attend, following everything we were talking about, tracking everything we mentioned, and later on as we left, we got the article in newspapers. So people sent us, hey, we wrote about this, can you give us a quote so we could publish it? The impact was felt. And it's being felt now as we go back, and prior to going back, having people say, hey, I want to talk about this. Can I introduce this? Can I introduce that? So as I mentioned, this year is more data science, AI, solutions, technologies that they're working on, and also being able to introduce that to them, and then being able to them to talk about it. Remember, Kenya is a lot of people that already know machine learning. They're already semi-working on it right now. So it would be interesting to see what kind of growth progress they've had from the time we met with them last year to this year. So that's my basic conversation on social innovation. Did you guys have any questions for me? I'm not organized as a nonprofit. It's a LLC. I would eventually have to do this under the nonprofit. There are 2 ways we could have gone about this. I'm always a self-funded person, as Talisa knows. I'm big on self-funding only because I'm from the banking sector. Banking sector says, prove to me what you're doing. We don't care about your ideas, prove it first, and then we might give you money, might. So with that in mind, I already know that's how most investors, bankers thought, so I never looked to investors to fund it. What I did do is go to people that had similar interests. Google already had a similar interest, women tech makers. That's as common as you can get with aligned purposes. So with that, going to them was, hey, we're doing this and we just need you to sponsor the food, So I'm not asking you for $20,000. I just need you to pay for the food for the first 3 days. And then this way that eliminated that cost for me because it was already shared purposes. We also had Uber, which was like saying Uber does not give you direct money initially. They won't do it till they see their impact. Uber said, you know, this is what we're willing to do. We're not going to give you money, but we're going to give you all the speakers you need, and then we'll offer you discounts, you know, for your people. So they gave us all their top ranked women to come out and speak. So now we weren't just an organization that came in and no one knew. We are now, all you saw was the branding, because you need the branding. You now see Google, you now see Uber. You're like, who the hell are these people? Why don't we know who they are, right? So, and in Africa, we're all about flash. If you're not shining, go sit down. So, and you know, I'm sorry, Google and Uber flashes in Nigeria. So that's what they want to see. That is what we gave them. They just got more than they bargained for, which is a good thing for us, because it played out better in the long run, because you can see by what the numbers that we could collect, the end result. However, for someone who is doing something similar, social innovation, and if you don't have like funds like I do, because remember I work in banking, so we get bonuses, put the bonuses to the side, you know. So if you don't work in the same field that I would work, I would definitely say align yourself with corporations that are already doing something similar or have the same purpose. If you can do that and not say to yourself, I'm gonna go get 50,000 from these people, I'm gonna go get 20, 30,000. If you have no track record, start small. You know, don't over explode it. It's great that you have these ideas. People love ideas. However, they don't fund ideas unless they're 100% convinced. And if they're already doing something similar to yours, they may not fully fund you unless you could prove that you're gonna do better than what they're doing currently. So Google was not doing things in Ghana. It didn't do things in Kenya. So they have a Google Women Tech Makers, local. However, they didn't have anyone doing a big event like ours. So they took note from what we did and incorporated some of the things we did over there to events here. So we were doing things that we knew that they weren't doing, which is fine. And that's how we were able to get in. So I would tell, it did, because this is the second year that they're still involved. You know, some people might say, okay, that's it, 1 year, that's all you're getting, but we're going year 2 and they're still involved. So that to me aligns the purpose of what we're doing. It says, hey, you did something right. But this year, like you said, I could go for bigger funding, but I changed my mind. I said, I'm not going for bigger funding. I'm going to stick being a resources. And then this way you'll need me, the corporations, not the people that I'm working with, because you need access to my people. So as I build and grow those numbers, because you're looking at like a total of like maybe 800 women that attended the events, both events, and this is only 2 countries. Now, imagine my email list. My email list had over 2,000 people, maybe half of, only 30% show up at any registered free event. So therefore, I have email addresses. You make it more valuable and tangible with what you do afterwards. The initial thing may not make you that, but what you do with it afterwards is what matters. And social innovation calls that you focus in on what you're going to do afterwards and then build out from there. Any other questions? Nope. What time is it? Am I ahead of time? Yeah, I'm up early by 15 minutes. So I'll share with you some more information. So I'll share with you some of our topics, if I could pull it up, that we're doing. We also had a pitch competition. And within the pitch competition, what we did was we partnered with the hubs, the technology hubs that were there. Nairobi Garage is one of the bigger hubs that is based in Kenya. And what they did was we asked them, hey, we have these girls, they're in your community, they're gonna need mentorship, they're gonna need leadership, they're gonna need a follow-up. Would you be willing to be with them for the next 6 months? At least 3 winners, one gets 6 months, one gets 3 months, and then the other one just gets 30 days just to see what it's like within the space. And can you create mentors around them? Because it's our first time initiative, and they loved it. They loved the concept. They said, okay, great. So our first place winner of our pitch competition actually was with Nairobi Garage for 6 months. And she went on to win 2 other competitions, which gave her a total funding of like 500,000. So from that, she was able to maintain where she's at, but still have support services from Nairobi Garage, which she's actually extended her stay at the garage, and it allowed her to continue on. The same thing with Ghana. We didn't have as much participants participants in a pitch competition. What we had actually were people that were just learning how to pitch, because each country calls for its own thing. As I mentioned to you, Kenya was a little bit more advanced, so a lot of those girls already had their pitch decks ready. They already knew what to say, they already knew how to say it. You know, again, it was just, where's the opportunity that I can get to actually meet these investors without paying like $1,000 to attend an event? So whereas our investors were there, our investors heard, gave them feedback, and these were a partnership organization that only does investing in Africa that I've met through working here. So, and they were able to be a resource to them. And that's what helped out tremendously, was that we had already built up, you know, partnerships already. As you do social innovation, especially in the field that you're in, go to their conferences, go to their events. I can't stress how important networking is. You're nothing without a network. Nothing, like absolutely nothing. Some people will not help you. I don't care if they're a woman or not, they will shade you. You know, I mean, that's just fact. The people that help me the most, men. 90% of people that have helped me with everything that I've done as it relates to African women in technology is men. So I'm just letting you know, it's not women that helped me to pull this together. It was the men. The men were like, oh, you need such and such? Let me call them for you, you know? Or, you know, in Nigeria, if I call, I didn't get anything done. But if they called, oh God, you want this? No problem. I call, it's $100,000. Why am I getting charged $100,000 and he gets it for free? My point, don't close your doors on who could actually offer you the opportunity, especially if you've already networked within the space that you have an interest in. So if you're networking within that space, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna find someone that connects with you and your purpose and what you're trying to do. Even if they don't wanna do it, they're actually gonna say, oh, you know what, I got the perfect person for you. Let me call this person for you and get that done. We didn't get those spaces for free because I knew people in Kenya. I don't live in Kenya, I said that before. I live in Bed-Stuy, you know, the Biggie place, you know, where Biggie's. I live here, so I don't have those connections. Those connections came from the men that I met at conferences who said, oh, you really want to do this? Okay, no problem. Let me make these phone calls for you. So it made my life easier because they were able to do that for me. So that's what I would recommend. Stick within a network, and then that will help you to get it done. Also, believe it or not, I think that blogs that focus in on what you have an interest in, not just your general blogs. You know, I could be featured on TechCrunch. That doesn't mean anything. I need to be featured on somebody's tech blog in Africa, you know? So it's like everyone knows TechCrunch, but I'm out of touch with TechCrunch, whereas I'm in touch if I'm in Kenya, and there's Tech Moran, which only focuses in on the tech space, and they have access to him, and they can call him and say, hey, you featured this girl, who is she, and how can we help? Because they know their community. So it's the same thing here. It's the same community aspects that applies when you're doing social innovation. People know their community. They know who to talk to. They know what blogs to connect you with. So make sure that you stick within the areas of the people that could really help you make that impact. I'm not wasting my time on 100 other networking events that have nothing to do with my purpose. That's just where I'm at in life. So I don't attend everybody's everything. That's just me, you know, because I don't have enough energy to expand to everybody else. My energy is like this big, so, and I can only give like this much, so I have to make it very purposeful and focus, you know, because that's the stage of life that I'm at. You may not be at that stage. You're not at that stage. Y'all are definitely not at that stage. Y'all need to be at everybody's everything until you figure out where you're at and what you want to do eventually. And I would strongly recommend that for anybody that's a college student. Go everywhere, do everything. You'll figure it out eventually till you burn out because you got more energy. Me, I go out one night, girl, I'm done. Weekend, done. So I do brunch one day and I can't even last past like 10, 11 o'clock. I'm trying to go home and be grandma. So that's not you, however. You'll wake up the next day like you never even went to sleep. So go everywhere, do everything, enjoy your life. But nevertheless, you know, social innovation, purpose, stick to your group, find your purpose, get your goals written down and know exactly what you want to do, know who you want to target, make a list, and then also reach out to everyone. I don't care who says no, just keep going.
So how do you assess your family or community needs? Like, you know, how do you know how to help them?
Well, what happened with Kenya is that once I started I had to actually research Kenya, even though I knew that they were more advanced than, say, Nigeria in terms of the technology developments that they had, which was mobile tech is way advanced. So because I knew that research, then I dug deeper. I started to look for women tech organizations. I didn't reach out to them, they reached out to me because they saw what we were doing. But I also looked at what their community was missing because, like I mentioned, blogs always mention a lot of things, solutions that people were looking for, what people may need. So what we did was we started looking at that and then created topics around exactly what they needed. So we access through our own research, and you have to research something before you can even add to it. Otherwise, you're going in there blind, no one's attending anything, no one's coming to your thing, and no one wants to hear you speak because you're not the subject matter expert. So we had to go in, research, and then from there get the right people to come talk about the right subjects. Even though we knew what we wanted. We knew the end result of what we wanted. Even though I'm bringing you and you're from there, you are from there, but we knew what questions we wanted to ask in order to get you to speak. A lot of the women, unlike here, I find that the US, we are out in the public. We put ourselves in social media. We put ourselves on LinkedIn. We do, Essence, all the magazines that could feature you and make you popular within the circle that you're in. Not those women. Those women most of them were not even on LinkedIn. Only a few were on Twitter. Women are not logging in like that. So you have to get them and then say, you need to talk about this and how it's impacted you. So we're not asking them the questions directly, but we had people within their community ask them those questions so that they can expand on it. And that's how we had to do it, because those women you're not gonna find them in a directory saying, here's a list. And if you do have a directory, it's the women that have been in so many circuits that they're out of the community reach. You really want people that people can touch and feel. If I can't touch and feel you, you can't make an impact to me. That's how I feel. So if I feel that way, you can't make an impact to the young girls that we're bringing. So we have college students, we have high school students, secondary school. So if they can't reach out to you, you're worthless to me. I can't use you for my purposes in order to make an impact to the people that I'm trying to impact. Welcome.
I work at a incubator, startup incubator, and many people come in with an idea dealing with social impact, and they focus on trying to find a solution to some problem, but they don't think about how to sustain the organization. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, in terms of us sustaining or in terms of how they're sustaining?
You and then any advice you might give.
Right. The sustaining factor for us was starting to realize that where do you want this to go? Because I could just do an event focus and then just switch it out every year and then just get the monies that I talked about in terms of getting the corporate sponsors and then being done with it. I said, nope, let's just keep the corporate sponsors to one side where it just takes care of the event. For me, I'm more interested in the data and the people that we've met along the way and the impact that they'll make in the things that they're doing. So the long-term goal for us was actually to say, okay, when we build out this platform, we need to be able to actually say, hey, here are resources and we want you to come back to us. So by you coming back to us, you keep us relevant. And if you keep me relevant, then corporations will make me relevant because now I'm relevant to you. So therefore, there's a factor that comes into play. So now there's corporate funds that's coming along the way. Guess who's getting those corporate funds? Because I have access to people. You know what I mean? So therefore, the sustaining factor for me was not ever to go back and charge these girls. It makes no sense. I won't get my audience. I'll totally lose my whole purpose because my purpose was never about the money in the first place. Because the money was just to cover the expense of it. But the sustaining factor is that corporations are going to pay attention to what I'm doing because now they're seeing the numbers, now they're seeing the drive, now they're seeing the interest, now they see their marketing opportunity because we blow it up like you just superstar, on Twitter feeds. And if you're trending in the top 5 and we're putting your company out there, guess what? You're relevant. You were relevant already. Now you're relevant within a space that is all technology and people see that you're the company that they're making all this noise about. Great. So, and we told the girls, just like if you're sitting here and I'm telling you, y'all need to tweet this, guess what? They're putting it out there. So the companies understand their impact to the group in which they're having the event. And that impact, priceless. So, and the numbers speak for themselves. I can't make up Twitter data. I can't manipulate it. They could pull it up for themselves if they wanted to. So I give them the data and what do? They're like, wow, okay, all right, let me look at you a little bit closer. So that's our sustaining factor. When it comes to someone like Edna, in terms of her social impact, what she did was she went into a farm industry that she was interested in. Farming is pretty much most of Africa. You know, outside of the tourist areas, you know, that people see, once you get past all that, it's all farm country. So in order for you to be able to maintain, you have to be able to communicate with them. The biggest thing that she had to get past was the fact that the farmers did not trust you, number one. They don't trust your technology, number two. So now you have to convince them to use this piece of equipment. It doesn't look like this, but there's a version of this. And say to them, you're still gonna make money. You just need to trust this thing. It'll tell you when to plant. It'll tell you when the earth is more fertile. It'll tell you when to water from the last time that you watered if you entered the data here. It'll give you all your outputs if you do X, Y, Z. So for her, being able to get them on and then being able to say, okay, once you do this and you get sales from within the app, then I get like 10%, 15%, 20%. Whatever the deal is that she works out with the farmers, it's still an impact so they're able to sustain even though it's social. And remember, social doesn't always make a lot of money. So if you're trying to get rich, social may not be your game. But it is a very impactful area. And if you could find within it what it is that you're trying to do and make it work for a boatload of people, that's great. It'll work out for you. If not, keep it as a purpose, a small project, be happy, side hustle, whatever it is, you know. But it still works because you're doing it with your own purpose and it makes sense for you and you actually did it and you accomplished the goal. We're done now. Thank you. You're welcome.